Wow. He was saying, oh, no, I get that. The committee will come to order. Good morning to all of you. The Subcommittee on Space and Aeronautics, as I've said, will come to order. Pursuant to notice, the Subcommittee on Space and Aeronautics meets to consider the following measure, H.R. 2698, the Federal Aviation Research and Development Reauthorization Act of 2007. We will now proceed with the markup, beginning with opening statements, and I will begin and then turn to my colleague, Mr. Feeney, for his remarks. This morning, the Subcommittee on Space and Aeronautics will mark up H.R. 2698, the Federal Aviation Research and Development Reauthorization Act of 2007. H.R. 2698 reflects the constructive input of members on both sides of the aisle, witnesses at our series of FAA hearings earlier this spring, as well as input from a diverse range of stakeholders in the aviation and research communities. The Federal Aviation Administration's stated mission is to provide the safest, most efficient aerospace system in the world, and its stated vision is to improve the safety and efficiency of aviation while being responsive to our customers and accountable to the public. I know those are laudable and important goals, and I want to support FAA's efforts in striving to reach those goals. To that end, this legislation is focused on ensuring that the FAA will have the tools that it will need to keep the nation's air transportation system safe, efficient, and environmentally friendly. Thus, the Act reauthorizes a range of important R&D activities at the FAA, starts up new initiatives in some key areas, and contains provisions aimed at strengthening the Interagency Joint Planning and Development Office, fondly known as JPDO, which has the responsibility of planning and developing the next generation air transportation system, NextGen. With respect to the JPDO, the Act responds to the recommendations of the Government Accountability Office as well as other expert witnesses that the Space and Aeronautics Subcommittee heard from at our recent hearings, by including provisions aimed at strengthening the effectiveness of the JPDO in carrying out the Next Gen initiative. These include such things as strengthening the authority of the JPDO director, requiring each participating agency and department to identify a senior official to be in charge of its activities in support of the Next Gen initiative, requiring an integrated plan with date-specific timetables for implementation of Next Gen capabilities, having OMB coordinate each participating agency's and department's budget in support of the Next Gen initiative, directing JPDO to develop contingency plans for dealing with degradation of the Next Gen system due to a natural disaster, major equipment failure, or act of terrorism, requiring the JPDO to establish noise, emissions, and energy consumption requirements for the Next Gen system, directing JPDO to develop an R&D roadmap for the integration of unmanned aircraft systems into the National Airspace System, and having a GAO carry out annual reviews of the JPDO's effectiveness. As important as the JPDO is, the Act recognizes that the FAA, in coordination with other agencies such as the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, has a critical role to play in supporting other important aviation R&D activities, a number of which have been underfunded in recent years according to the testimony of the GAO, FAA's own advisory committee, and expert witnesses at our hearings. To that end, the Act augments the President's funding requests for human factors research, weather research, unmanned aircraft systems research, and energy and environment-related research. In addition, recent announcements from Europe regarding the potential imposition of emissions penalties on aircraft operations in the next decade have made it clear in the United States that we need to be better prepared to understand the impact of aviation on the climate, as well as what might be done to mitigate that impact. This legislation takes the first step in that direction by directing the FAA, in coordination with NASA and the U.S. Climate Change Science Program, to develop a plan for such research, and then having the National Research Council carry out an independent assessment of that research plan. The nation's colleges and universities have an important role to play in carrying out research in support of the nation's future air transportation system. At the same time, that research is a critical means of helping to train the next generation of scientists, engineers, and aviation specialists that we will need over the coming decades. Thus, this Act establishes a research grants program involving undergraduate students. It also contains provisions aimed at strengthening FAA's Centers of Excellence program, and I particularly want to thank Mr. Feeney for his constructive proposals in that regard. The Act also contains R&D provisions to continue engine research in coordination with NASA that has the goal of enabling existing general aviation aircraft to operate with unleaded aviation fuel. That's a provision that Mr. Lipinski has been very interested in, and I want to thank him for his efforts on behalf of it. In addition, the legislation continues the Airport Cooperative Research Program and also establishes a runway research program that should benefit both general aviation and commercial air carrier airports. Finally, in view of the increased importance of space weather to aviation, especially with the increased incidence of flight operations over the polar regions, the Act establishes a multi-agency research program to conduct research on the impacts of space weather on aviation and air passengers. We all know that air transportation is central to the nation's economic well-being, our international competitiveness, and our quality of life. FAA's R&D programs play an important role in ensuring the continued safety and efficiency of America's air transportation system, and I believe that the Federal Aviation Research and Development Act of 2007 will keep FAA's R&D enterprise healthy and productive. I again want to thank Mr. Feeney and my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for their support and their very constructive advice regarding this legislation, and I look forward to a productive markup this morning. With that, I'd like to turn to my good friend, Mr. Feeney, for any opening statement he would like to make.
Thank you, Chairman Udall. This morning's markup of legislation reauthorizing the Federal Aviation Administration's research and development programs is an important first step to redirect, reinforce, and improve agency efforts to maintain the highest possible levels of safety, efficiency, and capacity in our national airspace system. I support this legislation and would urge all members to support it as well. The FAA is a unique federal enterprise. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it operates a complex nationwide network of communications, navigation, and surveillance systems upon which our civil, military, and general aviation aircraft are completely dependent. The architecture of this system dates back 50 years. It is simply incapable, as currently designed, of handling large increases in traffic. But having said that, a huge and increasing portion of our economy is directly reliant on FAA's ability to manage the air traffic control system at the highest levels of performance. More and more commerce is utilizing the airways in one form or another to meet consumer demand. The result of these trends is not surprising. Congestion and increasing frequency of flight delays clear signs of stress on a system that is close to saturation. The bill before us takes several important steps to address this issue. First, it reauthorizes R&D programs and projects requested by the administration for fiscal years 2008 through 2011, generally at the requested levels. This bill does increase funding authorization for human factors, weather, unmanned aerial vehicles, and the Joint Planning and Development Office and environment research activities. In addition, the bill authorizes 5 new research programs, 2 of which are already being conducted by FAA. The bill also makes several important improvements to the Joint Planning and Development Office, which is housed within the FAA, but serves to coordinate research among 5 federal departments and agencies, whose goal is to develop a new air traffic control system by the year 2025 that will triple the system's current capacity. Section 4 clarifies the role and responsibilities of the JPDO and its partner agencies, and clarifies accountability and budgeting. Finally, I would like to emphasize one of the other features of the bill that addresses unmanned aerial vehicles. Section 4 includes an extensive provision directing FAA to provide Congress with research plans and conduct pilot projects designed to accelerate the introduction of UAVs into the national airspace system in a safe and effective manner. There are a number of federal and state agencies that desire to use UAVs to perform public safety missions, especially with regard to border protection and drug interdiction. UAVs are being used to great effect by the Defense Department, and I believe, as I know the Chairman does as well, that UAVs can serve critical roles here at home. I want to thank Chairman Udall and the majority staff for their open and frequent consultation throughout this entire development of this bill. Bipartisanship has long been a hallmark of this committee, and this bill is certainly reflective of that tradition. I look forward to supporting the bill, and thank you. Yield back my time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Feeney. And without objection, members may place statements in the record at this point. I want to share with the members present that after the markup was formally noticed, our staff discovered a technical error in the bill. We incorporated the correction of this error into H.R. 2698, which was introduced yesterday. It's my understanding that the corrected text has been made available to everyone. If there's no objection, I ask unanimous consent to consider H.R. 2698 as a base text for the purposes of amendment. Seeing no objection, we'll proceed to the first reading of the bill. I'd ask unanimous consent that the bill is considered as read and open to amendment at any point, and that the members proceed with the amendments in the order of the roster. Without objection, so ordered. We'll proceed to a vote on the bill. Are there any amendments? Hearing none, the vote is on the bill, H.R. 2698, Federal Aviation Research and Development Reauthorization Act of 2007. All those in favor will say aye. 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 All those opposed will say no. Opinion of the chair. The ayes have it. At this point, recognize Mr. Feeney to offer a motion.
If I can get my lights on. Mr. Chairman, I move that the subcommittee favorably report House H.R. 2698 as amended to the full committee. Furthermore, I move that the staff be instructed to prepare subcommittee legislative report and make the necessary technical and conforming changes to the bill as amended in accordance with the recommendations of the subcommittee.
The question is on the motion to report the bill favorably. Those in favor of the motion will signify by saying Aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is favorably reported. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Subcommittee members will have 2 subsequent calendar days in which to submit supplemental minority or additional views on the measure, ending Tuesday, June 19th at 9 a.m. At this point, I would like to thank the members for their attendance. This concludes our subcommittee markup. Committee is adjourned.